when you listen to that song, all the bass, all the 7-string, all the 12-string, and all the harp strings are performed on the Hydra in one performance. And I did it in sections, because it was really hard. I don't have any special gift for coordination or I can't even sing and play the guitar very well. It's just...
Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely true. If I could, I'd have a real career.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of Innersleeve, the podcast taking a behind-the-scenes look at all things music. I'm Cassius Morris, Joe Pacheco on the line with me. What's happening, Joe?
Not much, my man. Just very excited about this episode.
This is a big one, and this is definitely one that I think is exciting for us and the listeners alike. We are absolutely honored to be joined today by the alien guitar god himself, Steve Vai. Steve Vai joined us on the podcast to chat about his brand new record, which is going to be titled Inviolate. He has an insane new guitar called the Hydra Guitar, which I don't even think we could call it just a guitar, Joe. This is pretty much like a monstrous machine.
Yeah, I don't even know. He went in depth in terms of the history behind it and the concept and who made what and what it entails in terms of playability. But we did this a little while back before any announcements were made about this guitar. So, and now, you'll see that there's so much more to it. In terms of there's some tubes, some green tubes, there's lamps, there's an Ethernet port, there's
insanity.
So many other things, So I'm excited to see how he uses it right in the future.
Half the world's Wi-Fi is now being powered. You heard about 5G. That's coming from the Hydra, so that's a brand new feature there. We also talk about his gem guitar, and we have a bunch of different clips of this available as individual clips as well. So if you hit up the SoundMojo YouTube page, you can catch all of these clips that we're continuing to upload. But before we jump into all of that, which is super, super exciting, we do have a couple of stories from the world of music. Now, the Prince of Darkness, of course, that being Ozzy Osbourne, had an unfortunate run-in with his brand new line of NFTs, which, by the way, I think is really, really cool, Joe. I think that the Cryptobatz is probably one of the higher-end musical NFTs that we've seen, but he was off to a rocky start with it, from what I understand.
Yeah, it's initially, we spoke about this a couple weeks back, but he released 99,666, right, Cryptobatz, and the idea is he also partnered with some other high level, if you want to say it, NFTs.
Pun intended.
So the Bored Ape Yacht Club and stuff, so that the Cryptobatz would take a bite out of their NFT to highlight the fact that Ozzy, mistakenly bit a bat in 1982 and that whole thing, right?
The bat bites back. Okay, this is the Revenge series.
Exactly. And sadly, though, everything was going beautifully to plan, but sadly, the organizers, which I believe are called Sutter Systems, who put the website together and the whole project together, they kept tweeting and then the original Discord, because Discord is used a lot in as Twitter. Discord and Twitter are the two main places for NFTs and stuff like that. So they changed a few days before they minted. They changed the Discord address, but didn't delete the tweets, the old tweets with the old address. So some scammers took that and built themselves a private Discord with that link, connected to that link. So when people showed up to actually mint, because, you see tons of tweets and, tweets were retweeted and retweeted. So you trust it. It's Ozzy, man.
Of course,
this is legit,
verified,
right?
Millions of followers.
That's it. So when they got onto the Discord, they were, actually, if you look here, they'll say, when they got into they were brought to a phishing site and asked to synchronize their wallet or to connect their wallet. And then they were scammed out of the money, and up to here, they don't know exactly how much was scammed, but apparently a collective of around $41,000 in cryptocurrency. Now that depends, because some of these, if we look here on the listing, right, if we go on to, where is it? I thought I had it. Oh yeah, okay, here we go. So if we go on to the OpenSea listing, you look at the first one here, and it was bought and it was relisted at ETH, I guess, which is $7,300 today. So this guy was okay,
Wow.
but they don't know how many people got scammed, unfortunately, you know. And this is sort of like, you know, we touted here. We're all excited about NFTs and the possibilities of what it can bring and stuff, but
it's still early.
it's still early, man. And, you know, there's
Yep.
people that are quick. And obviously these scammers, they were really quick to have thought of that. I would have never, honestly, personally, I would have never thought to delete the old tweets because of a bad link, right? So anyways, now they're all passing the buck to each other, you know. So the Sutter guys are blaming Discord, which I don't really understand how you could blame Discord. I mean, sure, there's like verifications and stuff like that you got to do or should do or Discord should be aware of. But I mean, personally, I think this lies in that, you know, the fact that they changed the tweet and, you know, this kind of stuff happens. So unfortunately, there's no one you can really call, you know, it's like the crypto
That's the
space
thing.
and stuff.
At least not yet.
Yeah, that's it. So sad. It's another like, you know, another like ding on the NFTs and crypto sort of game, you know?
The last thing that the game needed was probably this, but you know, like we say, it's early and it's hard to tell. And I guess when you're making any kind of investment, it does come with risk.
Yeah, that's it. You know, and I feel for Ozzy. I mean, I'm under, man. He must have been totally like sidelined by this. Like, what happened? I screwed over my fans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not fun. You know.
Now, this is an interesting one, as it always is in the world of Ye, formerly known as Kanye West. Now, here he is enjoying his ice cream, and I'd be enjoying it too because his net worth is currently in the billions of dollars, and we don't know exactly where it ranks in the billions.
Here it says purported billionaire, but I'm sure the guy is damn close, if not past.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it varies based on the source, but it looks like he wants to increase that number of his net worth, telling the paparazzi that he believes that he should be getting a percentage of the photos sold with his likeness shown. Now, this wouldn't end just with Kanye. This would go for all celebrities. Kanye even vowing to the paparazzi that he will change the laws, he will change the rights, and he will get a percentage from these photos. And do we want to look at this video there at all, or?
A percentage?
Yeah.
I want your percentage. You don't want my percentage.
Now what I'm saying is, y'all gonna end up giving all celebrities a percentage of our image. We're gonna take control of our image. Right now, y'all get to shoot us without having to pay. I'm gonna change that.
It's a good idea. I'm not against that necessarily.
You know, I'm not usually a huge fan of what Kanye or Ye does and stuff. Sometimes, you know, very controversial guy and like, you know, but whatever. He's allowed to do what he wants to do. But I think I would back him up on this. Like, just the fact that these guys can, you know, okay, if it was just like during the red carpets or, you know, a launch or something like that, and now you get your picture taken and then you sell it to a magazine, whatever. But these guys are hounded, man. They're hounded everywhere they go, whether they're with their kids or not. There is paparazzi, man. And you know, some of the paparazzi, they like to instigate and really like trigger you, you know, and stuff. So can you imagine what these guys deal with, him and that level of celebrity deal with on a daily basis? You can't go anywhere. Your kids, you can't bring your kids anywhere. And then these people are making hundreds, if not millions, on these pictures, on the likeness. Like you know, if we took a picture and we made a shirt out of it, we'd probably get sued, right?
Exactly.
I look at it also as like royalties too, in a way. Why not? Like if a radio plays his song, they pay him the royalty for having played the song. So while if you sold, a 6-figure picture to somebody, man, give him a 10% royalty. There should be a society or a collection society that picks all these magazines and websites and like, which would probably be a hugely daunting task, but like, or like, I don't know, maybe there's an accreditation, like where you're a type of photographer, you get accredited, and then I don't know how it would work. But for once, I actually would back him up on this.
No, it's interesting because I tend to agree. And I mean, he made two really good, valid points that sort of shifted me to his side of it. The first thing was, like you mentioned too, these photographers are making tens of millions of dollars off their children, off their families. And that's something that when you can't control would probably be pretty frustrating. The other point he brought up was that when an NFT is sold, the creator of that is given a little bit of a percentage in perpetuity. So you're not just selling things. And, you know, it kind of goes with the theme that, like, nature doesn't really have any free lunches. And right now, this is one of the very few. You follow these people, you sort of make their life miserable, and in exchange, you don't have any consequence and you make money. I could definitely see this changing quite soon.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm surprised it's taken this long, especially, you know, like if you look at, like, example, Princess Diana being chased and then, like, they losing control of the car and all that stuff. There are some real, like, consequences to this type of scenario, the hounding that they do, you know, and
Huge.
But, like, think about it, right? From a photographer's perspective, he took the picture, he made whatever, made his year on one picture or whatever, but if you were to use that picture, or if the magazine was to just take that picture and just use it, the photographer would launch a lawsuit like
exactly
like this, right?
But the person in the photo has no rights.
Exactly. That's it, you know? So it's kind of like, you know.
Moving on to a sad story in the world of music. Rock and roll icon Meatloaf has passed away at the age of 74. Of course, best known for his work on the Bat Outta Hell album and the Rocky Horror Picture Show movie, among many other things. And it's reported that Meatloaf passed away of a COVID-19 respiratory infection. So very sad, Joe. I mean, Meatloaf, definitely a guy who's been struggling, though, for I think a number of years with God knows what type of health problems.
Yeah, it's always sad when we hear someone like this or anybody passing, you know. I mean, I'm not as intimately, you know, I don't know his catalog, you know, besides like what you named and like I Would Do Anything for Love and those bigger hits. Were you a fan? Did you know anything of his? Did you listen to his stuff?
I was always aware of him from my parents. My parents were big Bat Outta Hell fans. All their friends were growing up, and I think they went to see him in high school. But then I really became aware of him, I think, from Rocky Horror. I used to have a weird thing with that movie. I used to think it was so cool growing up. And so that was about the extent of it. The other thing that made me aware of him, too, is that when he came here a couple years ago to my city, he actually collapsed on stage and in the middle of a show in front of the audience and had to be, I think, taken to hospital. So basically every awareness I've had of Meatloaf in the last couple years has sort of been like a sad, negative thing. And I hope he's okay. I mean, I heard this one story from him that apparently he woke up one day in a hotel room and he had no clue where he was. And when he finally found somebody to ask, he found out that he'd been on tour for weeks. And he'd been in countries and countries, and he had no recollection of starting a tour, going to any airport, being anywhere at all.
That's what they call rock and roll.
That's rock and roll, man. But think about it. What that does to a person's health. To live to 74, that's like living to 105.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I remember like it was a staple, like the Bat Outta Hell album, the vinyl. Everywhere I would go as a kid, you know, like I'd go visit an older cousin, you know, and I would go through their vinyl collection, and I always see Bat Outta Hell, Bat Outta Hell.
Of course.
I always found the name Meatloaf kind of strange for an artist's name, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, like, you know, I guess I understand why I never really dug any further into him is because I'm not a fan of musicals or musical type stuff, you know. So
yeah,
it never
the big
interested
grand
me.
Kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it never really interested me, but every time I see a picture of him or a performance of him, I mean, it looks like the guy gave 400% in terms of like, you know, how much he gave and how, the one thing, I don't know if you remember this, but the one thing I remember, like, you know, when I watched him was in Fight Club, the movie, when he was in Fight.
I actually have not seen Fight Club, which is not a good thing to admit.
Yeah, that's it. So it's like it was fun to watch him in that movie. It was a bit like, you know, wow, cool. You know, he's acting and stuff. But I mean, yeah, it's always sad when stuff like this happens. 2022 has not been kind yet so far in terms of celebrity deaths, you know?
Pulling no punches, unfortunately. So as promised, we're about to jump into this awesome podcast with the legend himself, Steve Vai. Anything we should mention before this, Joe? Because, you know, like we said, this is a pretty big show.
Yeah, this was, you know, it's sort of like was offered to us and we jumped on it so fast. We didn't even turn, like within a few seconds, yes, we accept Steve Vai, you know. I don't know, I just, you know, it's so nice to just see him. I mean, I've seen that studio, as you see where he is in his studio, the Mothership studio. And actually, my hard drives, ever since like every time I buy a new computer, and instead of having the D drive or the E drive or whatever, I would always name my hard drives. So like, I think it's like 4 computers in, I always have one. The main one is called the mothership. It's all because of Steve Vai's studio and like his thinking process, But no, definitely a dream sort of come true to get this guy on the show and to have a normal conversation with him. And I mean, I don't think I fanboyed too much, but enough. But like, just the fact that we got to hear like Frank Zappa stories from Steve Vai is
insane.
Yeah. So that's it. Enough said for me.
Yeah, and it felt like we covered a lot of different eras of his career too, and a lot of different aspects. I mean, musically, sort of professionally, personally, with the guys he's worked with, such as Zappa. So we're not going to hold you guys much longer. We'll be back after with our takeaways, and enjoy our chat with Steve Vai. Great to see you, man. Honestly, it's I know it's been such a cool time for you, since the last time we chatted and everything. And maybe we could just let you kick it off. I mean, what's been going on in terms of the album and tour preparation?
Well, I'm in that cycle. I went through like everybody, I went through the pandemic lockdown and made the best of it, made the most of it, and throughout the lockdown, I had other projects I was going to do, but like so many of us, things changed. And towards the end, or at least the last 6 or 7 months, I just decided, I really want to get on tour. I got to get on tour, and I want to play new music, because a lot of the music I write, it's difficult to play live. You can't, it's just too dense, and so I wanted to make a record that was like any artist. You want to be honest and make the most honest thing that you can at any given time in your now. And right. I had a couple of pieces that I had recorded through lockdown, and I wanted to get those on a record and round it off with some new stuff. And that's what I did, and that turned into a record, my new record, which is coming out in January. It's called Inviolate. And I think the impetus was the desire to just get back on tour.
Right.
Like in the past, I enjoyed touring, and I kind of looked forward to it. But it requires a lot of, you got a lot of prep and all this kind of stuff. So when I couldn't tour through the lockdown, I started to like get that itch.
Right.
It's like, I'm looking forward to the next tour, but you know what? I'm going to just hang out now, and then it's like, okay, I've been hanging out for a while. I think I'm really interested in getting on. I'm looking forward to getting on tour. And then it's kind of like you start thinking about Europe and being in Europe and all these different countries that I love going to, and South America and all these places I love going. And then I'm like, shit, I want to get on tour, so that
must have missed it a lot.
Well, I didn't realize how much until there was a big span of time. So then I decided to make the record, and now we're planning a tour.
Man, it's insane to think about the fact that you just went through some pretty major surgery. I mean, 3 tendons, I believe, that were ripped in your shoulder. How exactly did that go with making this new project, and how did it influence it?
Well, I wouldn't say it was major surgery. Major surgery is like if you have a disease or something. So really, it was torn shoulder stuff. I had 3 tendons, and that was last year. It kind of happened. It took a while for it to happen. But
right.
Then finally, I'm like, okay, I better go do something about this, And I always try to see anything that happens as being in my best interest.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually believe that that's the case for everybody. Challenges are necessary, And if you look at them with the perspective, how can this serve me? I know that there's a way that this, I don't know what it is, but I know there's a way. So that's it. You don't have to know why a challenging situation is happening. You don't have to know why it's in your best interest. But as long as you know that it is, then you will see why. And that's what happened to me on various occasions through the lockdown. And one of them was my shoulder, because when I had the surgery, the doctor that did the surgery, his name was Dr. Knapp, K-N-A-P.
Right.
He's like one of the world specialists, blah, 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 you know. And he developed this, he invented this sling that goes on your shoulder for people who've had this kind of surgery, and it's called the knapsack.
There you
So
go.
I had this knapsack on, and after a couple of days after surgery of being, you know, high on narcotics is all I can say, you know, painkillers, you know, and letting that clear out, I was home here, and I couldn't play, but I received this guitar from Hoshino, which was the new Black Onyx Pia.
Oh yeah.
And I was just really, I had the knapsack, I couldn't play, and I'm like, God damn, I want to play this guitar. You know, it's so great. And then I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I can play it.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, I mean, it was very, you know, if you're a guitar player and you've got like a legato style, you can play with one hand.
Man.
Yeah. You have to
You know.
develop those muscles in that hand.
Yeah, you just got to hammer and pull, you know?
Yeah,
Hammer
yeah.
and pull, you know what I'm saying there?
That's a new T-shirt that's
totally
coming
do.
out.
I know Joe knows what I'm talking about.
Oh yes, I do.
So, I'm kidding. Okay, so I decided, well, why not just write a song that's got that where you use one hand? So that's a way that I turned a challenging situation into something that ended up being in my best interest.
Yeah.
So then eventually it healed, and I also I developed a trigger finger in my thumb, and that was weird, because the weird thing about trigger finger is your finger actually triggers. It goes click, 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 and then it froze, and it just wasn't going anywhere, and I couldn't play again. So I had both surgeries done relatively the same time, and they're not serious,
Okay.
and it was a real easy fix. But the only problem was about 6 months ago, I tore another tendon.
Oh man.
I'm wondering how long it's going to be before my body says, no, you can't do this anymore.
I wonder if your doctor said, well, you can't do any more of those crazy windmills, you know, with your guitars around your neck, maybe.
He would be out of luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to be out of a job. You can't tell Steve Vai not to play.
Yeah, the only thing that's going to tell me that is my arm itself.
Exactly.
No, but I'm doing great, thank you. And in some areas, my playing is actually doing much better than ever. And in some areas, it's, you know, age and stuff, it starts to get compromised, you know. So you just do the best with what you got.
For sure.
Got to work with what you have. And I know that for the first track on the album, it's called The Teeth of the Hydra. And this is something that's really interesting to me. So this was something that you had in the works for just about 5 years. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So how did that sort of come to life with the designer, the Hoshino designer?
Well, I came up with a concept, and it was just kind of like an idea. And the idea was to create this radically odd-looking guitar that had 3 necks and harp strings. And I knew I wanted the top neck to be 12-string and half of it fretless, and then the middle neck to be 7-string, and the bottom neck to be a bass neck with the E and the A strings fretless, and then harp strings, right? And at the time, I was really into like steampunk fashion, so I scoured the internet for various examples of steampunk fashion, you know?
That's a big rabbit hole.
Yeah, that is a rabbit hole. It's a beautiful rabbit hole, actually.
Totally. I love it.
I think I found Alice in there. Anyway, so I took the ideas and some of the materials, and I sent them to Hoshino, and these guys just freaked me out. I mean, they kind of like threw away all convention and decided to exercise the potential of their creativity. Because when I saw the first renderings, I'm like, that's crazy, man.
Wow.
That's insane. And I'm like, are you going to build that? You can actually build that? And they took it beyond some of the things I was thinking, you know? So after about 3.5 years of going back and forth, I got this instrument, and I'm just looking at it, and it was awesome and intimidating because I knew I had to create a piece of music on it, and I knew that I wanted to create a piece of music that only had the Hydra on it, and I knew it needed to sound like a piece of music and not a novelty joke, you know, because when you see a picture of this guitar, you know, some people I know that they'll say in their mind, yeah, sure, it's Steve Vai. He can have anything he wants built,
Right.
You know, so big deal. What are you going to do with that thing? You know, it's kind of like having a 13-inch prick. You know, it's good to it's nice to impress your friends, but what are you really going to do with it?
Exactly. With the sizzle, where's the steak?
Yes, you know. So I know that I have to do something with it. So, and that was really the exciting idea for me, to create a piece of music that uses everything on the Hydra, but sounds like a piece of music, you know? It's kind of like juggling chainsaws, you know?
Right.
So when you listen to that song, all the bass, all the 7-string, all the 12-string, and all the harp strings are performed on the Hydra in one performance. And I did it in sections, you know, because it was really hard. You know, I don't have any special gift for coordination, or like, I can't even sing and play the guitar very well. It's just...
Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely true. If I could, I'd have a real career. That was a Frank Zappa quote, by the way.
If your career isn't real, I want a fake career. I'm just putting it out there.
There you go. Exactly.
That was a Frank quote. We were in rehearsals once, and he was showing the bass player something, or maybe he was showing me something. He's saying, play this. No, it was the Ray White guitar player. Play this and sing this. Da, 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 and then he'd play it. And the bass player, Arthur, says, why don't you play it and sing it at the same time? And Frank Zappa says, if I could play the guitar and sing at the same time, I'd have a real career.
Oh my gosh. That sounds exactly like Frank from what I've read and seen. I mean,
oh yeah. So I picked that joke up. So I don't really have any special gift for that kind of dexterity. So I had to start really slow and kind of imagine it. And you know, things that seem impossible for you don't seem so impossible once you start doing them. You know, so I started doing it, and then I built the song.
Yeah, you just got to piece by piece, right? It's a little bit at a time, and then you get acclimated to the instrument. Well, that eliminated one of the questions I had here was, where do you see the next evolution of guitar? Well, you just told us the next evolution of guitar is coming soon.
Well, I wouldn't say that the Hydra is the next evolution of guitar.
Well, it sounds pretty cool with like harp strings and
it is pretty cool. I've seen people doing some interesting things online. You know, I get links all the time from people to check stuff out, and there's some people doing extraordinary things. There's one person I did see not too long ago who was doing something with a triple neck. It was like an acoustic thing, and they, you know, they were negotiating all of the necks in one performance.
Wow.
And it's fascinating. It's amazing. But I never really, none of the music that I ever hear from these fascinating players it moves me. I don't dislike it, but it's I like stuff that is a little more abstract, a little more obtuse, a little more unexpected. So it's amazing to see some of the technique that is being developed in the guitar community. But it's rare to hear any real melodic evolutions.
Right.
Have you ever seen Pat Metheny play his Picasso guitar?
You're the second one that brought that up, and I have to go look.
You must. It's like 42 strings. It's got like, a very high little register where it sounds very like almost, I don't know. It's just it's definitely something to see. And Pat, being Pat, he's incredible in his melodic sense. Yeah. It's a must. So yeah, speaking of guitars, I want to know about like the gem, right? It's like 34 years or 35 years now.
Yeah, it's going to be 35 years.
Yeah, so it's like I know like Guitar World ranked it as like the top 10 most electric guitars in 10th chronologically, like starting with Les Pauls and all that stuff coming to yours. And I found also Watch Mojo ranked the Gem number 9 back in 2015 in terms of guitars, and hey, that's a good company because you have to go up against the Les Pauls and the Strats and all that stuff. So like, are you surprised by the adoption of it? Like how it just took off? Like since '87 and its longevity.
Yeah, it's a stunner. It's a total. When I designed the Gem, it was really very innocently. It was like, what would I like? And that was something I picked up from Frank. When you want to do something, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And because a lot of people would, especially back then, you don't want to touch a guitar. No, that's where the volume goes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, after working with Frank, it's like, no, it doesn't. It goes, you know where it goes? It goes where you want it.
You take it apart like a car kind of thing and put it back together.
Yeah. And so I just started thinking, what do I want? So at the time, all the things I wanted, there's just didn't exist in a guitar. Like 24 frets with the pickup configuration I have, with a floating trem that didn't even exist. Nobody had it.
Man.
Some simple little things. So I just went to this little guitar shop in Hollywood and I said, do this, and they did it. And also a lot of help from some of the techs I had at the time. Elwood Francis Patrick was a big help, and some of the other guys. But I got this guitar that was perfectly suited to me. It had everything that I loved. And then when I joined Dave Roth's band, more of the big companies were interested in having me endorse them. And it always felt weird for me to do endorsements,
Why is that?
Because it wasn't yours.
Because it's like, hey, I'm me and I use this, so you should use this.
Right.
And also I didn't want to get pigeonholed into having to use something that I might like or dislike. See, a lot of, I see it all, happen, and it happened to me, where you're wooed into going to do something because it's free. And at the time, back then, free things were good.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's not free if you don't like it. You know what I mean? If it's not perfectly suited. So when I had the Gem, before I started working with any companies, I felt like I found what I wanted. But then these other companies were interested, and I sent it out to them, and I said, well, if you can make this guitar, great, well, maybe we'll talk. And they didn't even come close. It's like they didn't even try, because they're used to working with artists that I don't know, but I just felt like, they would send me their guitar with my name on it, and I was just like, well, no, that's not this guitar.
Doesn't live up to the Hydra.
Yeah, it doesn't live up to that. Yeah. So, but Ibanez came back with the Gem, and it was outstanding. In 3.5 weeks, they made me the first Gem, and it was perfectly based on the specs that I gave them. So I didn't know if anybody, I didn't expect to them and have them make that guitar for other people.
Okay.
I thought, well, they want to make this for me. Okay, great, And then they said, well, we'd like to make it a signature model. And I thought, well, I don't know who else is going to be interested in this, but sure, let's do it. Let's do it. And the rest is history. As a matter of fact, I can't even believe it, because it's like lightning struck. I had no idea that the features on that guitar were going to be so embraced by the guitar community. The floating trem, I mean, how do you go back from that? I mean, or the pickup configuration was it was unique, as far as I'm told, And I'm sure that having 24 frets on that kind of scale length and cutout is very conventional today, but it didn't exist. I know. I looked for it. I mean, I wanted a guitar where I could play high notes and reach them.
Right.
I could not understand why Strats and Les Pauls give you these notes, but you're not allowed to hit them. You can't get them.
The forbidden note.
Yeah, and that's like it's like an unspoken absurdity. Like stupid little things that people don't fix. Because I'm not saying that's a stupid little thing. I'm just saying if you want it to be different, change it.
It's true. It sounds simple, but there's a lot to that.
Yeah, it's like mob mentality.
Right.
It takes courage. Like if somebody says, I think I'd like 24 frets, and I think I'd like to be able to reach them. And as a matter of fact, it would sure be great to be able to design a guitar that perfectly fits my hand, And then somebody, a whole group, an underground, community of people that say, you can't do that. You can't, that's sacrilegious. What are you gonna do with 24 frets? There's something wrong with you, and get vaccinated.
Yeah. And then it continues from there, right?
Yeah.
Man, that makes me think that it seems like one of the common themes on this new project is really you experimenting with things that sort of territory you've never really been in. And so it sort of ties into this question, like, do you feel like you can achieve that Vai sound at this point on any guitar in any circumstance? And was part of this exercise sort of almost to demonstrate that to yourself or see if that was possible? Because I mean, the clean tones, no whammy bar. I mean, each song has so many different aspects to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Cassius, you want to do things that are fun and entertaining to you, and that you feel like when you're doing them, you're pushing your own boundaries, so to speak. So that's what I like to do. So whatever, everything is fair game. And I'll tell you this now because you're a young man, and it took me to be 60 years to discover it. You're allowed to. You're allowed to do whatever you want and not have to worry about what anybody thinks about it. Now, I know that sounds cliche. But it's the secret to your happiness.
Happiness, totally. I'm learning that as I go through it too, and I'm in my 40s. So yeah, totally.
Yeah.
We asked the Watch Mojo audience a lot of questions saying we were going to meet with you and we wanted to know, if they had any questions. And resoundingly, it came to 3 topics, which I'm sure you know.
You can guess,
It's always Crossroads, right? People want to know about the Crossroads and the Karate Kid himself and all that stuff. So,
well, the good news for them is there's about 5,000 interviews of me talking about it.
Exactly. Halo 2 is another big thing that kept coming, the soundtrack. A lot of these kids, because the audience is very young, game-oriented audience in their 20s now, watching top 10s and the whole pop culture. So a lot of them grew up playing video games and listening to Steve Vai. And that's how they discovered you.
Yeah.
So some of them were asking how did that come about, that collaboration with them? When they reached out to you, or was it something that you were looking to do, or have you done anything since, like with other gaming soundtracks?
The other stuff that I've done with gaming soundtracks were when the company would reach out to me and say, can we use this song in our game?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And the funny thing,
too.
Yeah, that happened I don't remember, I would look at it and make sure the deal felt good. Mm-hmm. And some of them were like windfalls. They made a lot of money. I think one of them, I don't know the games very well. You have to forgive me, but I think like Grand Theft Auto.
That's what I was just gonna say. That it had to be Grand Theft.
That was one, and then there was one Guitar Band.
Guitar Hero or Guitar Band?
Guitar Hero and Guitar Band. You know, what was really funny about the Guitar Hero was they licensed For the Love of God, I think, and I was playing it with my boys, and they're just kicking my ass.
Well,
Yeah.
it's weird because
On your own
I tried to
song.
play this thing and it's not normal, right? You as a guitar player, you know where to go, but this is weird. I can't
Yeah,
play
but
this.
it's funny to see them kicking my ass on my song. You know?
Yeah.
So then, because I was much older, I never really I loved the video game thing when I was introducing my kids to it and playing with them, but I never really was a gamer. But it created a whole subculture, and music was a part of it. And luckily, or interestingly enough, orchestral music was incorporated into video games, and that was nice because recording orchestral music for soundtracks is very expensive, and TV and movie were moving away from it because it was so not part of their budget. But the gaming industry was rich, so they had all of these wonderful orchestral pieces, and then of course they want to contemporize them. So my dear friend Nile Rodgers was working on the soundtrack to
Halo, I think.
Halo, and it was the first one. It was the second Halo.
Yes.
And I had heard about the game. I didn't really know much about it. I know my kids liked it, and I knew that it was the biggest game in the planet, Yeah. So I was on tour, and Niall called me, and we just happened to be both in Seattle at the same time. He was recording in a studio, and I was coming into town, and I was playing, and he asked me to come down and play on the video game soundtrack. And at first I thought, I don't know, I don't, I don't know if I could fit into that kind of world. But they also needed somebody that could read music.
Okay.
So because it was Niall, I'm like, I'm there. Because he always works on
Legendary stuff.
yeah, interesting, creative stuff. And it's always like, what's Niall working on now? Because whatever it is, it's going to be big,
You don't say no to Niall.
You don't say no. So I found myself in the studio with him having just a blast, just tearing it up. And the funny thing is when we're in the studio there, I'm doing the stuff and I call my boys, right? And I said, hey, I'm working on the soundtrack for this game, this video game. And they're like, well, what's the name of the game? And I'm like, what? Now, what's the name of this game again? And Niall goes to me, Steve, this is Halo. This is the biggest game in the world. I'm like, okay. So
If you say so.
yeah, say okay. And I said, it's Halo, a game called Halo, and there was just like radio silence. It was like dead silence. I'm like, hello, and they're like, Halo? You're playing on Halo? And I'm like, yeah. It's like the first time that they thought I was. I thought I was cool,
Yeah.
So we did that, and that was a lot of fun. And then they did the third one, which was like, I think, a 10th anniversary, and that was real fun too. They asked me to be a part of that, and they recorded that up at Lucas Ranch in Northern California. So that was really great. And I will admit that it was a surprise for me to see how many people, young people,
World over.
Beloved.
They mentioned that game, and yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's really something else. Just thinking about your whole musical process, this question is sort of out of left field when we're coming off the game topic, but synesthesia, a term that a lot of the audience may not be familiar with, obviously you are, sort of seeing visuals in your head and colors when you're listening to music. I'm just wondering, is this something you've ever experienced? And if so, how does that work for you?
I don't really recognize any of these metaphysical phenomenons happening in me, like where I'll like synesthesia, where you will hear colors or you associate. I say I can do that, but it's only because anybody can do it if you give it the focus. If you put
Right.
if you give it your full attention, you can start to develop a sense for those things, you know. I think what happens to me is probably not so uncommon for most people when they're in the creative process and they're connected. You're not, none of that other stuff matters. The way you see things, the way you hear things, the way, you know, whether you're hearing colors or seeing whatever, in a sense, it doesn't matter. What matters is your connection to your unique inspiration, your ability to allow the creative voice in you to come through unhampered.
Right.
That and that is a mind's that is you embrace. I guess it might be a form of synesthesia where you psychologically embrace an emotion. You know, you just you hold something and then you say, what would this sound like? And that, I guess you'd say that was a form of synesthesia, because you're taking something ethereal and you're applying a sense-oriented thing to it, you know? Like, what does vanilla ice cream sound like?
Right.
You know, I don't hear it. I don't have that ability, but I can imagine it and create something that in my mind would represent vanilla ice cream.
And Frank would say things like that to you as well.
How so? Oh, Frank used terminology to get you to do his bidding, you know, and it was amazing. It was funny as hell. Sometimes it was very academic, you know, where he'd say, play a septuplet on the back end, you know what I mean? And he'd explain things in theoretical form. But so many times he would just say something, and his ability to describe a sound with certain, you know, terminologies was just fantastic. Like, okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, so we're in rehearsal once, and Frank would, in rehearsal, he would just like, he'd be laughing most of the time and creating. Do this, you know, okay, now you do this, okay, and then do it like this, and then, you know, and then when we do it, he'd go, ha, 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 you know. And sometimes in that space, terminology would come out, and one of them was, okay, I want to get it right. Okay, so he would say to the keyboard player, there was this one section, I'm trying to think of the name of the song. I think it was like We're Turning Again or something, and Frank was writing it, and he goes, in this part, you need to sound like, it was like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood on acid, or something like that, you know? So, okay, so Mr. Rogers, okay, so right away, that means you got to go tinky, tinky, tink, you know? And on acid, now that's what he's looking for, you know what I mean? So he would use great terminologies.
Man, second to none. So for this segment right here, we have a couple of clips that we pulled for you. And we were just looking to see what comes to mind when we show you these moments from your career and sort of your first reaction to it.
Guys with light blue hair never do.
Well, first of all, I was 20 years old. And when you hang out with Frank, you find yourself doing some pretty peculiar things to make him laugh. And I remember that because I had long hair for many, many years, and I was planning on cutting it that next day. The next day we had a day off in Connecticut. And whenever you can surprise Frank on stage without doing something that is inappropriate, it's always a win. So I just decided at that minute to just, you know, because there's a line in the song that goes, I forget. It's like guys with light blue hair, something.
Right.
So, and the song was about me. Frank wrote a song about me. It's not quite accurate, but it's very Frank. And I remember just going on stage and doing that, and it was just the next day I cut all my hair off. And what was funny was I showed up to sound check, and I wasn't recognized. The security guard, John Smothers, came. I came to the stage to do sound check, and he's this big black guy, bald and very intimidating looking, and he's walking towards me with those intimidating John Smothers eyes, like he's going to tear me apart. And then he looks and he goes, "Sport," because he called me Sport, or Puppy. Now Frank called me Sport. John Smothers called me Puppy. He goes, "Puppy," and so I wasn't recognized because I cut it all off. But yeah, that's silly moment.
All right,
Man.
that was interesting.
Epic.
I can't believe I just heard Steve Vai tell me a Frank Zappa story.
I got a lot of them.
Oh, I can imagine. I'll just share another quick one here.
When this guy gave you the call and said, I want you to play for my band, what was auditioning for Dave like?
The man's totally out of his mind, and don't let anybody.
Completely out of his mind. Don't let him tell you otherwise.
What comes to mind when you think of the David Lee Roth years?
Wow, they were wild. I mean, if you ever had a fantasy of like being a young rock star in the 80s, that would be the gig. And boy, that was the gig. That particular moment there was the first time that we actually had started doing press, that I started doing press in the real world, and with David Lee Roth, who was a press magnate. So I remember when we were doing the Yankee Rose video, Dave had a stylist come in with racks upon racks upon racks of all this Melrose Boulevard kind of clothing paraphernalia of the 80s, which was, at the time, it was like spandex and
Neon.
White pants with red lips on them, So all that stuff was very exciting to us, and we would just wear it. And with Dave, when you're doing press, it's you never know what was going to come out, but you just had to keep it real, keep it going. But those days were, I look back at them, and I'm extraordinarily grateful that I was able to have them. I enjoyed them when they were happening. I knew they were fleeting. I knew that it wasn't something I wanted to do my whole life, and that I was really grateful that I was able to do it. And at the end of the day, I looked back at the whole David Lee Roth experience, and I just wanted to feel as though I delivered, and I do.
Oh, you did.
I feel as though I delivered the best I can, and it worked.
I think it's safe to say you've always delivered, whether it be Whitesnake, Alcatraz, all that stuff. And I mean, it's not easy. You're always, at the beginning especially, you're always jumping into someone else's sort of spotlight, right? And then you had to sort of make it your own. Not many people could do that, and you did it like 100% every time. And then finally, with Passion of Warfare came, it's like you just took off on your own, and you did your own thing. It's incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, without question.
I feel pretty blessed, yeah.
We really appreciate you coming on, Steve. We got about 30 seconds here until it throws us out of the meeting, but we encourage everybody to look forward to the brand new record, which is going to be coming out. And of course, the tour kicks off January 27th at the House of Blues. So it must be very exciting, and we can't wait to see all the clips from that.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to doing it. And thanks for the time on your show.
Oh my God, amazing! Thank you.
100%, Steve. We'll keep in touch. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. All the best.
Right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you.
I want to give a huge thank you to Steve Vai for taking the time to come and chat with us. Just thinking back and looking back at that, just really one of the most unique conversations I think we've had on the show. And just really, like I say, just so many aspects covered. I mean, Vai, he's one of those dudes, I feel like I could talk with him for 3 hours and I'd still have a ton of questions. He's just so multi-layered.
That's it. And it's like, it felt like all I was missing was a scotch and a cigar, and just like, let's have a conversation, like it just felt so natural. And like you said, we covered a lot in, a quick sort of like, 40 minutes or so, we covered quite a few things, like his surgery, right? You brought up his surgery. I love the fact that like he said, it's not serious surgery, it's just shoulder surgery, it's like not like cancer or something like more and more serious, like even that, but this is your career, this is like.
That's the serious part I was thinking, because I'm thinking one of the greatest players of all time, issues with his hands and arms, this doesn't sound good, but I think it's sort of a testament to his mental, maybe willpower or sort of mental mind state of saying, like, he's not going to put it in his head that this is serious, he's going to put it in his head that I can get past this. So I mean, and I think he's due for more surgery now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's what I've
seen. Wishing a speedy recovery.
Yeah, because he announced a tour, right? They're going on tour and everything with the new album Inviolate. What about the Hydra, man? What'd you think of that guitar?
Dude, what do I not think about it? I mean, that thing is like, it's like a spaceship on land. I think that he's really found a way to outdo himself this time. Like, if somebody was going to really think, okay, what could be the most Vai thing ever? This would probably be it. And it's fascinating because you gotta probably push it so far when and I think we talked about this with him, when you've been doing it for so long. You got to come up with different ways to keep it fresh. And I mean, I think it just goes to show how far somebody will be willing to go to do that if they're really passionate.
Yeah, and speaking of like Vai guitars, like, I mean, the Gem, right? It's been around for 35 years, and I still remember it like the first time I saw it in a music store here in Montreal, and it's like just walking in the store and you're walking, obviously the expensive guitars, they always hung them so you couldn't touch them and, just play them kind of thing. But like you see these beautiful like like neon green, yellow, pink guitars with the monkey grip, 24 frets, like he said, floating trem, and then like the claw behind the trem so you could really bring it back. I wasn't aware of like the fact that, I was younger at the time, but like, 24 frets with the spacing and stuff he was talking about, like so that he can actually reach the frets. I also didn't know, because like I saw that as Steve Vai's guitar, I didn't know that like he didn't expect any, he just thought people were going to make him a guitar, but Ibanez was like, no, we want to sell these,
Yeah, a line.
And sell them that they did, man, because I remember when I think it was the 20th anniversary or 25th anniversary, they had sold like 70-something thousand because he did a play with 7,700, like 7777, right. And I think he released a model special because they had sold 77,777 type of things, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it just triggered a memory. If you go through his solo albums, the 7th song is always a ballad. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So lucky number 7.
So that's it, So it's like, there's always a concept with the guy. There's always a reason for what even in his playing, right? There's always a reason for what he's doing, So.
And he can explain it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It was so fascinating to see the breakdown that we got, like, him in his own words, really explaining this music. And I think that really took us, to another level with this entire thing. So yeah, this has been probably one of the most one of the interviews I'm the most grateful for in this entire experience, and definitely blew my socks off, for sure.
Yeah, and it was nice to hear, like I said, like, you always put these guys on a pedestal, sort of, like, they're artists, they're iconic, and all that stuff, but like when you watch when you see him just talk about stuff like a normal guy, just like, making little wisecracks or little jokes, and it's like, wow, it's so normal. Another thing was cool was like hearing his kids, when they found out that he was on Halo 2, like the biggest game on the planet at the time, and then beating him at his own song on
Guitar Hero.
Guitar Hero and stuff.
You can't make this stuff up. You can't.
No, that's it. So thank you so much, Steve, for coming by, and Steve for putting this together, this opportunity together. We really
Steve and
appreciate
Steve, the ultimate duo.
I know, seriously, and we hope he comes to Montreal or comes to town so that we can maybe go actually physically meet him and maybe get another little inside scoop on or something.
That would be phenomenal, yeah. And we want everybody to go check out the brand new record, which will be coming soon, called Inviolate. We have all the information on Steve Vai in the description below, whether you're tuned in on video or audio. And a big shout out to all of our audio listeners on all of the various platforms where you have the podcast streaming. We've been looking at you guys' downloads. We see you guys. We appreciate you guys, and thank you so much. We also want to give a huge thank you to everybody out there who subscribed. We just passed the milestone of 25,000 subs, which we are, again, super appreciative. Yeah, we're grateful. It's really been an awesome year here awesome start to the year. I guess the year just started, but we're really excited for what's to come. So make sure you subscribe. Let's get that up to 26,000 very soon. We have our community tabs and polls, so make sure to look out for those as well. And click the little notification bell right next to that subscribe button for the updates that are real-time right from SoundMojo. You can pick some of the updates or all of the updates. I recommend all of them, but hey, that's just me. Also, make sure to go check out our merchandise, the SoundMojo merch, beanies, hoodies, sweatshirts, crew necks. I mean, the list goes on, and very good quality merch, if I may say so myself. They're using the Champion base for the hoodies and the sweatshirts, so definitely good quality material, so make sure to go check that out. Also, we're on social media at SoundMojo. We do On This Day in Music every single day of the week now. We added the weekends. Make sure to go check us out there, and that's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok at SoundMojo. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll check in with you guys next week on Innersleeve.